What's up, guys? So today we're just going to take a look at the Battle for Azeroth talents for Arms Warriors that got released. Just kind of talk about those and how the gameplay is going to start to look in the future. Seems pretty cool to me. It's kind of changing everything 100%. So we'll go ahead and go over that, and we'll start with the talents, and then we'll take a look into the abilities, and then I'll kind of point out a few as we go. But War Machine. Auto attacks generate 10% more rage. Useful. Killing an enemy instantly generates 20 rage. Useful for like leveling battlegrounds or dungeons, I'd say. And then increasing movement speed by 30% for 15 seconds. Quality of life thing. I mean, for those three things that I just listed, seems like it's going to be pretty nice, but that seems about it. It's not going to be really used for raiding. Like, you're not going to get much use out of that unless it's like a very ad-heavy boss. Like, I'm thinking Harjatan, that could be useful, but that's about it. Going on to Sudden Death, damaging abilities have a chance to make your next execute, cost no rage, be usable on any target regardless of the health, and deal damage as if you spent 30 rage, 2.5 procs per minute. That's just Alias Stoneheart. They put it into our talents because it's such a strong ability. I mean, we used that ring the entire expansion. That was the best in slot for us, so seems fitting that they put it in a talent. It's going to be pretty hard to beat. I mean, 2.5 procs per minute, that's a pretty good talent right there. So I'm sure that that's going to be like a must pick. But Skull Splitter also seems to be pretty cool. 21-second cooldown, generates 30 rage, and does 140% physical damage. If you go ahead and take a look over at Mortal Strike, also 30 rage, so gives you a free Mortal Strike. It does 180% physical damage. So I mean, it's not like it's a wet noodle kind of a hit. Like, you're going to hit pretty hard with it. It's not going to be a Mortal Strike, but it's still going to be a decently hard hit. Harder than Slam, if we're still using Slam as our filler. It hits harder and generates rage instead, so I mean, that could be a pretty cool ability. 21-second cooldown, it's going to generate a lot of rage. Use that 3 times a minute. It's 90 rage right there. I mean, that's going to be pretty awesome. So we'll see, but these two seem like the stronger two right now. And keep in mind, all this stuff is going to change. None of this is going to stay exactly how it says right now. I mean, we have a coming soon right here. Completely not finalized yet, so just keep that in mind. Take this with a grain of salt. This is kind of just getting a window of what it's going to look like, what their idea for arms is going to be. 30 tier, double time, same thing. Stormbolt, same thing. Low damage, long stun. And then coming soon, going to assume that it's not going to be Shockwave, because if it was, then why wouldn't they just put it there? I mean, I feel like it's going to be a brand new ability. No idea what it could be, but if it's coming soon, then it's not going to be something that's already in the game. So it's probably going to be something new and cool. Hopefully. I mean, that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping it's not something boring. 45 tier, same exact thing as we currently have. Trauma 20% off of Slam, Whirlwind, and Execute. Rend, just stat squish. And then Avatar, minute and a half, 20 seconds, 20%. And removes all the roots and snares. So, same thing we already have right here. I'm sure that something is going to get changed here. I doubt they're going to want to keep 2 rows, because this row is going to be exactly the same too. 2 rows exactly the same as they are right now, and I mean, this one's pretty dang close, other than the coming soon. So it's really like 3 rows of talents that are exactly the same. I'm sure we're going to see a change there. So like I said, these are all the same. I'm just going to skip over that. 75 tier. Unbridled Wrath, Bladestorm and Whirlwind critical strikes generate 1 rage. That seems really lackluster. Like, I don't really see where you would use that. Like, 1 rage doesn't seem like a lot. 10 rage, okay, that's a pretty nice ability. But 1 rage, that's not really doing anything for me for a 75 talent. Put Warbreaker in as a talent, and it replaces Colossus Smash. So that's pretty interesting. Deals 250% of physical damage. Let's see. So it makes your Colossus Smash stronger, and it's an AoE. Same cooldown. Seems pretty interesting. Good for AoE. Colossus Smash has totally changed, though. We'll go over that later. But for something like Mythic Plus or an AoE fight, I'm definitely thinking that Warbreaker could be a solid pick, just because of the extra damage you're going to be able to deal with everybody. Plus, it's already a hard hit on its own. Then you also have Cleave. So these two, again, seem to be the 2 talents that are most intriguing. Strikes all enemies in front of you with a sweeping attack for 100% physical damage and inflicting deep wounds. So you're hitting them for about as hard as a Slam's going to hit. harder than a Whirlwind, because if you look, Whirlwind does 24 times 3, so one ability it's harder, granted 10 rage versus 30 rage, but it also inflicts deep wounds, which that's our new thing. Our mastery is going to be deep wounds, so it causes 60% of your attack power as bleed damage over 3 seconds, getting back to that Arms Warrior bleed with rend and deep wounds and just kind of getting bleeds in there, and I think that's fun. Completely different than what we are right now, where we're just completely based around Colossus Smash. But that's pretty interesting. I like that. Moving on to 90, Mortal Combo got a huge change. Increases the damage of your next melee ability by 15%. So kind of benefits you to be able to pay attention to your rotation and know what you're doing, because if you're able to hit like a Mortal Strike and then go into an Overpower, or you got an Execute proc, you're going to be able to do a lot of damage with that versus using Mortal Strike and then just hitting a Slam, or using Mortal Strike and just hitting a Whirlwind on single target. It just adds a little depth into our rotation. I think that sounds pretty fun. Fervor Battle increases damage by 200% to your primary target, and that's probably because, one, we don't have our artifact weapon buffing our Whirlwind anymore, and two, Whirlwind got such a stat squish that the 200% is just probably bringing it about even. Still, though, that seems like a lot. I didn't do the math, but I mean, 200% of, what's that, 72% of your physical damage, that's doubling it to 140, so that's going to bring your Fervor of Battle to about the same amount of damage as a Mortal Strike. Oh, it's 180, so same amount of damage as this. So a little bit less than your Mortal Strike, but still that's going to be a pretty strong hitting ability. And then when you add on Trauma to that, it could just be like, all right, well, we got back to the same exact rotation we have now, just less Colossus Smashing, so it's just all Mortal Strike and Fervor of Battle, which I think that would kind of be lame. Then we also got Deadly Calm. The thing that sucks about this, though, it's on a 2-minute cooldown. 10 seconds reduced rage of all your abilities by 100%, but 2-minute cooldown, that's like the longest cooldown we've had for a while. I'm used to the Avatar being our longest cooldown, Battlecry and Ravager both being a minute. Deadly Calm just seems like a long time to wait anymore. Arms had such short cooldowns this expansion. Moving on to the 100 tree, Anger Management, pretty much the same thing. Rage you spend reduced the remaining cooldown on Colossus Smash and Blade Storm or Warbreaker if you have it talented. I mean, pretty self-explanatory. Not really much you can talk about there. One thing to notice, though, is that if you do have Warbreaker, where is it? Blade Storm's on a 1.5-minute cooldown, so every Blade Storm is going to have a Warbreaker, so you'll be able to do 2 Warbreakers per Blade Storm, but that Blade Storm is going to have the increased 30% damage because of Warbreaker if you're in an AoE situation, so that's pretty nice. Going into Dreadnought, Overpower now has 2 charges, increases the damage of your next Mortal Strike or Execute by an additional 20%, and if you look at Overpower, it automatically crits, just like it always has. Cannot be blocked, dodged, or parried, same thing. But it also increases the damage of your next Mortal Strike or Execute by 30%. So with this, you can hit 2 Overpowers in a row. Your next Mortal Strike or Execute is going to hit for an extra 100% damage. Plus, if you have 2 stacks of Executioner's Precision, let's just say Execute phase, hit 2 of these, 2 Executes, 2 Overpowers. So you're going to have 50% here, 100% here, and then hit your Colossus Smash an extra 30% there, you're going to have a gigantic Mortal Strike hit right there. I'm not saying that's going to be the rotation, just kind of pointing out different synergies in here that you'd be able to have that are going to give you more damage. And then Ravager, just the same old Ravager we got right now. Dreadnought seems to be really cool, though. Like, I'm pretty sure that if that ability doesn't get changed, I'm going to be running that. That seems really cool. Then just kind of going over these, just remember the stat squish. So 115% physical damage for Slam, 20 rage. Charge, pretty self-explanatory. Does damage, roots him for a second. And then Warbringer, stunning it for until canceled. That's probably just talking about like when Prot has Warbringer. I doubt that that's going to be here, because if it was, then why wouldn't they just put it there? They put all this new stuff in. Why wouldn't they just copy and paste the Warbringer stuff and put it right there? Moving down, Victory Rush, Execute. Victory Rush is the same, Execute. See down there, though, if your foe survives, they take 25% more damage from your next Mortal Strike, stacks up to 2 times. So that's Executioner's Precision. Just cool way to be able to do more damage with Execute and kind of play with our rotation. Just seems fun. Mortal Strike, self-explanatory. 30 Rage now, though. Taunt, Heroic Throw, both same. Overpower, we already went over that. I think it sounds really cool, the damage increase that it has. Still free, 12-second recharge. Seems like a pretty nice ability. They definitely gave it a nice buff. Sweeping Strikes, for 10 seconds, your Rend or Soul Splitter hits another target. Plus it has Overpower, Mortal Strike, Claw Smash, Slam, Execute. So all of your abilities can just hit a single more target. But just one, I mean, that doesn't seem too strong. Like, Sweeping Strikes now hits 2 extra. I feel like they could have done more with that. But it is on a 25-second cooldown. Still could be nice. It's nice that we always have it, though. Don't have to spec into it. So I'm not going to complain too much about that. Pummel's the same. Heroic Leap has the protection text right there, which I think that's pretty helpful. I like that. But that's just for prot. I'm not going to really talk about that too much. Executioner's Precision's now passive that you get at level 28. Hamstring, Tactician, they just switched Overpower for Colossus Smash, but it works the same way. Die by the Sword, same. Whirlwind got the stat squish. Battle Shout, that's cool. We get a buff again. Strength and Agility for all raid members increased by 5%. It's awesome. I'm so happy that we have a Shout again. It's nice to have a buff and raid buffs. I mean, the entire thing was gone. Berserker Rage is the same. Colossus Smash deals 210% physical damage, increases damage due to them by 30% for 10 seconds on a 45-second cooldown. So that's kind of like our main cooldown now. We lost Battle Cry or Recklessness, it seems like, but we have Colossus Smash now as a cooldown. So I don't know how I feel about that. I kind of like the crit, but this is going to definitely make crit more important for us to be able to do damage. So that's fun. It's not going to be detrimental to get a crit piece anymore. Deep Wounds, Mortal Strike and Execute inflict deep wounds causing 60% of attack power, bleed damage over 3 seconds. We already talked about that. That seems pretty cool, and that's our mastery. Increased it by 8% right there. I mean, self-explanatory. Sounds kind of fun, though, that we have deep wounds back. Blade Storm, already went over. Intimidating Shout's the same thing. And then Rallying Cry, they just changed the name, but it does the same thing. Not Commanding Shout anymore, so that's fun. I mean, it was always getting called Rallying Cry. I know in my raid, my leader always called it Rallying Cry anyway, so not a huge change, but that's all we got for right now. If there's anything else that changes, which there will be, there's going to be a ton of stuff changing. I'll try to keep you guys updated on that. But I'm going to wrap up this video. If you liked it, let me know. Personally, a couple things that I think are really cool. Sudden Death, Dreadnought, Skull Splitter. I like those. Mortal Combo. I mean, right here, these three seem to be really interesting to me. I like those a lot. But, I mean, I can go either way with these two. But definitely Mortal Combo and Dreadnought, I really feel like is going to be a lot of fun.